Idiocracy is a 2006 American satirical science fiction comedy film directed by Mike Judge and starring Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, Dax Shepard, and Terry Crews. The film tells the story of two ordinary people from the present who take part in a top-secret military hibernation experiment, only to awaken 500 years in the future in a dystopian society full of extremely stupid people. Advertising, commercialism, and cultural anti-intellectualism have run rampant, and dysgenic pressure has resulted in a uniformly unthinking society devoid of intellectual curiosity, social responsibility, and coherent notions of justice and human rights. Despite its lack of a major theatrical release, the film has achieved a cult following. Plot: a U.S. Army librarian, Corporal Joe Bowers, and a prostitute, Rita, are selected for a suspended animation experiment which is supposed to last 1 year. Joe is average in every way, hence his selection, and Rita's pimp, Upgrade, has been bribed to allow her to take part. The experiment is forgotten when the officer in charge is arrested. 500 years later, when the average IQ has dropped drastically, Joe and Rita's suspension chambers are unearthed by the collapse of a mountain-sized garbage pile. Joe's suspension chamber smashes through the wall of Frito Pendejo's apartment. Frito throws him out. Joe, thinking all the unfamiliar sights are the result of a suspended animation hangover, makes his way to a hospital. The former Washington, D.C. has lost most of its infrastructure, with people living in plastic huts called domicile. The human population has become morbidly stupid, speak only low registers of English competently, and are profoundly anti-intellectual. Joe is arrested for not having a barcode tattoo to pay for his doctor's appointment, only then realizing the current year and society's state. At Joe's trial, Frito, still angry about his ruined apartment, turns out to be his lawyer, and his inept representation causes Joe to be sent to prison. Rita returns to her former profession and realizes that in the future, her job is much easier. Joe is renamed Not Sure by a faulty identity tattooing machine, and takes an IQ test before outsmarting the prison guards and escaping. Joe returns to Frito's apartment to ask him if a time machine exists to help him return to 2005. Frito claims to know of one, but agrees to help only after Joe promises to open a bank account under Frito's name in Joe's time, which will be worth billions by 2505. On the way to find the time machine, Joe and Frito find Rita. They arrive at a gigantic Costco store, where Frito thinks the time machine can be found. A tattoo scanner in the store identifies Joe as a fugitive. He is arrested again and taken to the White House, where he is appointed Secretary of the Interior, on the grounds that his IQ test identified him as the smartest man alive. In a speech, President Camacho gives Joe the job of fixing the nation's food shortages, dust bowls, and crippled economy within a week. Joe discovers that the nation's crops are irrigated with a sports drink named Brawndo, whose eponymous parent corporation had purchased the FDA and FCC, virtually replacing water in every respect. When Joe has it replaced with water without visibly improving the crops, Brawndo's stock drops to zero and computers lay off half the population, causing mass riots. Joe is sentenced to die in a monster truck demolition derby featuring undefeated rehabilitation officer Beef Supreme. Rita discovers that Joe's reintroduction of water to the soil has prompted vegetation in the fields. Frito shows the crops on the stadium's display screen, and Camacho gives Joe a full pardon, appointing him to vice president. Joe and Rita find that the time machine Frito spoke of is an inaccurate, history-themed amusement ride. Following Camacho's retirement, Joe is elected president. Joe and Rita marry and conceive the world's 3 smartest children, while Frito, now vice president, takes 8 wives and fathers 32 of the world's most stupid children. A post-credits scene shows a third suspension chamber releasing Upgrade, intent on tracking Rita down. Cast, production, early working titles included The United States of America and 3001. Filming took place in 2004 on several stages at Austin Studios and in the cities of Austin, San Marcos, Pflugerville, and Round Rock, Texas. Test screenings around March 2005 produced unofficial reports of poor audience reactions. After some reshooting in the summer of 2005, a UK test screening in August produced a report of a positive impression. Release: Idiocracy's original release date was August 5, 2005, according to Mike Judge. In April 2006, a release date was set for September 1, 2006. In August, numerous articles revealed that release was to be put on hold indefinitely. Idiocracy was released as scheduled but only in 7 cities, and expanded to only 130 theaters, not the usual wide release of 600 or more theaters. According to the Austin American-Statesman, 20th Century Fox, the film's distributor, did nothing to promote the movie. While posters were released to theaters, no movie trailers, no ads, and only 2 stills, and no press kits were released. The film was not screened for critics. Lack of concrete information from Fox led to speculation that the distributor may have actively tried to keep the film from being seen by a large audience, while fulfilling a contractual obligation for theatrical release ahead of a DVD release, according to Ryan Pearson of the AP. That speculation was followed by open criticism of the studio's lack of support from Ain't It Cool News, Time, and Esquire. Time's Joel Stein wrote the film's ads and trailers tested atrociously, but, still, abandoning Idiocracy seems particularly unjust, since Judge has made a lot of money for Fox. In the New York Times, Dan Mitchell argued that Fox might be shying away from the cautionary tale about low-intelligence dysgenics, because the company did not want to offend either its viewers or potential advertisers portrayed negatively in the film, noting that in the film, Starbucks delivers handjobs, and the motto of Carl's Jr. has degenerated from "Don't bother me. I'm eating. To fuck you. I'm eating." Box office performance. Box office receipts totaled $444,093 in 135 theaters in the U.S. Critical reception. Idiocracy was not screened for critics, but the film received generally favorable reviews. Praise focused on concept, casting, and humor. The bulk of the criticism was directed at the film's release issues or at special effects and plot problems. Los Angeles Times reviewer Karina Chocano described it as spot-on satire and a pitch-black, bleakly hilarious vision of an American future, although the plot, naturally, is silly and not exactly bound by logic. But it's Judge's gimmick knack for nightmarish extrapolation that makes Idiocracy a cathartic delight. In a review only 87 words long in Entertainment Weekly, Joshua Rich gave the film an EW grade of D, stating that Mike Judge implores us to reflect on a future in which Brittany and Kay Fed are like the new Adam and Eve. The Avenue Club's Nathan Rubin found Luke Wilson perfectly cast as a quintessential everyman, and wrote of the film, like so much superior science fiction, Idiocracy uses a fantastical future to comment on a present. There's a good chance that Judge's smartly lowbrow Idiocracy will be mistaken for what it's satirizing. In other countries the film was reviewed positively. John Patterson, critic for The Guardian, wrote, "Idiocracy isn't a masterpiece. Fox seems to have stiffed Judge on money at every stage, but it's endlessly funny," and of the film's popularity, described seeing the film in a half-empty house. 2 days later, same place, same show, packed out. Brazilian news magazine Veja called the film politically incorrect, recommended that readers see the DVD, and wrote the film went flying through American theaters and did not open in Brazil. Proof that the future contemplated by Judge is not that far away. Critic Alexander Kobal of ScenePlayers.com, while giving the movie a score of 5/5 along with another staff reviewer, wrote, "Idiocracy is not exactly funny nor innovative, but it's a movie to make you think, even if for 5 minutes. And for that it manages to stay one level above the terrible average of comedy movies released in the last years in the United States." Rotten Tomatoes returned a 73% fresh rating based on 41 reviews by critics, and Metacritic gave a score of 64% based on 8 critics. Home media. Idiocracy was released on DVD on January 9, 2007 with cropped and widescreen aspect ratios, deleted scenes, English and Spanish spoken language tracks, and subtitles in English, Spanish, and French. As of February 2007, It had earned $9 million on DVD rentals, over 20 times its gross domestic box office revenue of under $450,000. In the United Kingdom, uncut versions of the film have been shown on satellite channel Sky Comedy on February 26, 2009, with the Freeview premiere shown on Film 4 on April 26, 2009. Spin-off. In August 2012, Cruise said he was in talks with director Judge and Fox over a possible Idiocracy spin-off featuring his President Camacho character, initially conceived as a web series. A week before the 2012 elections, he reprised the character in a series of shorts for website Funny or Die. Analysis. The idea of a dystopian society based on dysgenics is not new. H. G. Wells' The Time Machine postulates a devolved society of humans, as does the short story The Marching Morons by Cyril M. Kornbluth, akin to the epsilon-semi-morons of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. See also, Demographic Economic Paradox, Fertility and Intelligence, Flynn Effect, Infinite Jest, Sex Mission, William Shockley, Sleeper, The Marching Morons, References. External links: Idiocracy at the Internet Movie Database, Idiocracy at Box Office Mojo, Idiocracy at Rotten Tomatoes, Idiocracy at Metacritic, scenes from the film at the Fox Home Entertainment YouTube channel.